Welcome to the Visual Storytelling Podcast. Let's discuss how to overcome challenges in low light photography. To overcome common challenges in low light photography, consider these 11 tips. Number 1, use a fast lens. Now, firstly, let's address what a fast lens actually means. A lens with a larger than average maximum aperture, so that is a smaller minimum f number. That is called a fast, or referred to as a fast lens, because it can achieve the same exposure as an average lens with a faster shutter speed. Therefore, choose a lens with a wide aperture, for example f1.8 or lower, to allow more light into the camera. Number 2, you can increase your ISO. So raise the ISO setting to make the camera's sensor more sensitive to light. However, be cautious, as high ISO settings can introduce noise, at which point will be determined by the camera that you're using. For example, a crop sensor will introduce noise much sooner than that of a full frame camera. With this in mind, if you use a crop sensor camera, then you may benefit from tip number 3, use a tripod. Stabilize your camera on a tripod to avoid blur from handshake, especially in long exposure shots. Referring back to tip number 2, utilizing a long exposure will enable you to keep your ISO setting down, reducing the chances of noise creeping into your shot. Number 4, long shutter speed. So if your subject allows it, use a slow shutter speed to capture more light, but be aware of motion blur. Number 5, image stabilization. If your camera or lens has image stabilization, enable it to reduce blur. Number 6, shoot in RAW. Capturing images in RAW format to retain more data for post-processing adjustments. One of the largest benefits of RAW is the ability to recover shadows and highlights in post-processing without bringing in the grainy noise usually associated with high ISO settings. RAW is very forgiving if you have severely underexposed or overexposed areas. A RAW image contains wider dynamic range and color gamut compared to that of a JPEG image. Number 7, manual focus. In low light, autofocus can struggle, so consider switching to manual focus and using focus peaking. Focus peaking is a real-time focus mode that uses the camera's live view focusing aid to highlight peak contrast areas with a false color overlay in your viewfinder. So focus peaking places a white or colored highlight in on any in-focus edges with an image using an edge detect filter. So this can help you determine which parts of the image is in focus before you shoot. Number 8, external lighting. Use external flash or continuous lighting to illuminate your subject. Number 9, bracketing. Take multiple shots at different exposure levels and blend them in post-processing for better dynamic range. Now, this method will require a good level of post-production, otherwise you risk the photo being obviously chopped and looking more like a Hockney than it was one shot. Even with the advancements in AI within post-production tools, if you don't have a good eye for detail, this method can fail. Number 10, noise reduction. Use post-processing software to reduce noise, but don't overdo it to avoid losing details. And number 11, practice. Low light photography often requires experimentation. Practice and learn from your mistakes to improve. What I would also add, if you take a photo and it's not quite how you expect it to look, it doesn't matter, because you're practicing. You're honing your craft. Don't think that you have to nail every shot. Not every photo you take needs to be shared online. When I'm shooting products, I take multiple shots, each time tweaking either the settings or the lighting position to see whether I prefer one look over another. I then only share the one image I'm happy with, that I feel best represents me and the type of work I wish to do more of for clients. Everything else is either for me or the bin. Remember that the right approach can vary depending on your camera and the specific situation, so adapt these tips as needed. Now, before I conclude this episode, I have a small ask. I'm looking to have more guests on the podcast to provide you with more value. With that in mind, if you work within the creative space and would like to have a conversation about what you do and the benefits it offers others, get in touch and let's have a conversation. I'll leave my social handles in the description. Once again, thank you for lending me your ear. I genuinely appreciate your time, and don't forget to follow the Visual Storytelling Podcast. And until next time, be creative, be inspired, be you.